Now, Joan, I'm usually up at night anyway. I've always been that way, you know. I always tend to be drawn more towards after hours than in the daytime. But I'm going to tell you right now, if anything, tonight I'm up because I'm still upset with Frank. Oh, yes. We haven't made up yet, you know, Joan. Um, I ate my supper alone. I wasn't going to eat it first. I was going to throw it out the back door to that old tomcat. But, you know, I was hungry. And I said, well, why shouldn't I eat? Why shouldn't I eat? I cooked this food. It smells good. I know this is going to taste good. And I'm hungry. So, you know what? For the first time in my life, I thought about myself. And I sat down. You know, Frank was still down in the hall with the door shut, all upset because of all the changes. All the changes. Never mind all the changes that I've gone through all these years with you know, Joan. But he was upset about all my changes. Heaven forbid Edith get something in her head where she feels like thinking about herself for once. So anyways, I enjoyed my supper. And he stayed in the room, and Joan, I never went and called him out. You know, part of me thought that I should, right? You know, it could be considered a little bit childish if, you know, you leave your man in the room and you're upset and you won't call him out for supper. But you know what? If that's what I am, if that's what you want to call me, childish, go ahead. Because today, he hurt my feelings, Joan. And I'm not ready to forgive and forget just yet. And heaven forbid something happened to Frank tonight. And I never got to say, you know, I'm sorry, etc., etc. But I'm kind of okay with that, Joan. Because, you know, I think he needs to come to me. And I don't think that he's going to die tonight. However, so I ate my supper alone. Yeah. And you know what? I enjoyed it. I felt like I was sticking it to Frank. He down in that room now being angry and miserable. And I'm out here cooking a supper for us, and he got to be stupid and childish. So I enjoyed my supper. And after that, do you know what happened to me, Joan? It was almost like it was meant to be. You know, Frank's still down in the room, and I didn't even go check on him. I couldn't have cared less at the time. But I went over now on the TV stand on the entertainment unit. I've got this dictionary, Joan, and you're not going to believe it. And I feel like it was fate. If there's any such thing as fate, I feel like this was fate. I got my dictionary. Now, you know, the Webster's, you know, old edition dictionary. I got that from my grandfather. That was passed on to me, Joan. And, you know, I know the kids these days, they don't use the dictionary, the Webster's dictionary. They goes on and they type things on their phone. And they find answers and they find maps and things like that. Apparently, I don't know. Jonathan told me that whatever he needs to find, he can just put it in on the Google, on the internet, and he could find what he needs. But I told Jonathan, I said, you know, what if one day your Google don't work? Because, you know, sometimes it does not work. But anyway, he says, well, Nan, if it don't work, I'll come to you. And I says, okay, Jonathan. That'd be good enough for me. But anyways, yes, I got the Webster's dictionary that I got passed on to me. But Joan, you're not going to believe it. And after everything that's happening this week, I feel like it's a revelation. I really, really do. And I was dusting off the shelf, and here's the Webster's dictionary that I got passed on to me. Yep. And out comes a photograph. And I'm gonna open it up now. Oh, he fell down on the floor. Hold on, don't. Oh, some hurt on me now getting up and down. My God, I remember when I was young, and Grandma, she'd be the same way. And now here I am, I'm Grandma, Joan. I got it now anyway. So I got to tell you, Joan. Here I was, and I opened up this dictionary and found a picture by mistake. There's a picture of you and me. I'm going to show you now. Hold on. Can you see that, Joan? Look, there's you, and there's me. Look at you with the cigarette and your lips. But I had cigarettes in my lips that night too, so I'm not going to judge you, Joan. We had more than that in our lips too. We had the alcoholic beverages. That was a good night. That was a good weekend. I'll never forget, because that was the time I was 28 years old. That was 2 years before David was born. And I'll never forget, because Frank was out on the boats. Because if he had been home, he would have never let me go. But I remember you were selling the Tupperwares at the time. And they had a seminar for all the consultants that was selling the Tupperware. And Frank had been home. I never would have got to go with you, Joan. But at that time, I had my mother came over and stayed at the house and looked out to things when I was gone, and waited by the phone in case Frank called. And I remember feeling so paranoid. Oh no, I shouldn't go. Frank might call, etc., etc. But I didn't have any children at that point, and there was a lot of mothers that had children at that point, and they got to do a lot more than what I did. But Frank was never up for it, But, so we went. Yes, you had the Tupperware seminar. And you took me as your guest. And I believe, I got to show you again, Joan. I believe that Anne probably took this picture. Because I know Anne came with us. And I believe Betty might have come with us too. But I can't remember quite. I just know that night, and Gareth was there with us as well. Just look at us, Joan. Look how young and beautiful we are, And at that time, I didn't feel beautiful. I thought that I was the ugliest thing on the go, and I didn't deserve any love from any man or anybody. I didn't love myself, that's for sure. And now looking back, I think to myself, if only I could have appreciated myself at that time, But you got that cigarette in your mouth, and I know I had one in my mouth too that night, amongst other things. And it was one of the best weekends that I had, because Garrett had come down too. And he was off from the boats that time, because Frank was out on the boats and Garrett was off. And usually they work together. And I remember going downtown to St. John's, and we was dancing. And we even smoked a little bit of the marijuana. And I'm not saying that's right, Joan. But at the time, it was certainly acceptable. And I even think that it should be acceptable these days. Alcohol is acceptable. So, why not? But that's neither here nor there. But I know that we smoked the marijuana that night. And we had some alcoholic beverages, and we had cigarettes. And we had a lot of fun, us girls. And we really did. And I remember, I'll never forget, I danced with Garrett that night. And he made me feel so beautiful and sexy. And I'm going to say sexy, Joan, because, more than just feeling good about myself, I felt like there was a fire in me that night. And I would never have done nothing. Never, never, never. But dancing with Garrett that night and having the fun that I had. And in 2 years from that time, I had a child of my own. I had David. But if I could go back, and we can't go back, so it's not even any point in thinking about it, I suppose. But you can't help but thinking about it, Joan. Here's you and me. And I believe Anne took that photograph. And Betty was there too, and we went in for that Tupperware seminar, that you was selling. But the weekend was so much more than plastic and Tupperware, wouldn't it? It was so much more than that. I never, ever forget that weekend. And look, here on the back, I'm going to show you the writings. It says, Edith and Joan, St. John's, 1969. And that's what fell out of my dictionary. Yeah, it surely brought the memories back to me. And I love you, Joan. I love you with all my heart and all my soul.